So, we shall talk about extraterrestrial radiation, so that we will have an idea of the magnitudes involved, from which whether there is a possibility to predict or measure the terrestrial radiation. So, we just had the simple relation G O n is G S C 1 plus 0.033 cos 360 n by 365. So, this is nothing but the radiation normal to the plane, right, because we defined GSC as the solar radiation on a plane normal to sun's rays kept at a distance sun to earth mean distance. Whereas, if I use the current distance, it gets modified by the elliptic nature of rotation of the earth by this amount, which is about plus minus 3%. So, from the angles we have defined so far, so if I multiply with the cosine of the zenith angle, I will get the on a horizontal surface. So, that is what I have recalled this equation. Now, this is a intensity, and we know that intensity is varying with time. So, if I want for any time interval like ice, we have introduced this. So, if we integrate the G O, which is nothing but the G O n into cos theta z, where G O n is G S C into that ellipticity part, and but my function is in terms of the omega. So, d t can be nothing but d omega by pi by 12 into 3600. Actually, it is more easy if you say that d omega by 15 is the number of hours multiplied by 3600 is seconds, 15 is nothing but pi by 12 radians. So, that is how you will get that time converted into d omega as d omega divided by pi by 12 into 3600 within brackets. Okay. Then my I 0, so I do not rewrite that expression, it is integration. Okay. This cos phi cos delta cos omega plus sin phi sin delta is nothing but the expression for cosine theta z. So, this is can be easily integrated. You will get in terms of that cos omega integrated becomes a sin omega. In the limits, it will be this bracket should not be there, it should be sin omega 2 minus sin omega 1. Okay. That you can just check it, and then this sin phi sin delta into omega 2 minus omega 1. Agreed? So, this is I will rewrite I 0 this x is a multiplication symbol because it is split into two parts, not x. So, this is the expression. So, this is a almost a standard phrase that GSC into 1 plus 0.033 cos 360 n by 365, from which you can construct I 0, H 0 or whatever it is by integrating over the appropriate time interval. About radians, this is where you have to be careful. Suppose it is 2 to 3 p.m., right? Then this will be how many? Omega 2 will be 45 minus 30. 15 degrees, but then I have to multiply by pi by 180. Otherwise, you will get a too large a number here. Okay. Now, if I choose omega 1 to omega 2 as minus omega s to plus omega s, then that will be daily right, because instead of the time interval being omega 1 and omega 2, if it is a symmetric function, you can write it as twice of omega 0 to omega s or minus omega s to plus omega s. That is how you will get a 24 instead of 12 and a sin omega s, and here sin phi sin delta into omega s, that 2 is absorbed in that 24. Okay. That we will call it H 0 . Okay. So, now what we can do? We can calculate G 0 any instant, I can calculate I 0 and I can calculate H 0 for any instant and for a given time of interval t 1 to t 2, it can be an hour. Generally, this is used for hour, this is intensity or instance, this is day. Right. So, it is good if I can deal with the daily values. If I know H 0, suppose there is a relationship between what is H, right, that will be little more accurate than I 0 to corresponding I, which there may be higher variation in a particular hour rather than for the entire day. That is one of the reasons why we try to go for longer time period. Then we define these accompanying notes will give you the exact full names, because these are all long. This is monthly average, daily, extraterrestrial, if you want even solar radiation on a horizontal surface. So, generally these bars are all averages and zeros are extraterrestrial, and if T tilted, if it is not there, it is on a horizontal surface. That is how we will later on distinguish. And this H 0 bar, I will make it simple, same as H 0, but use so, H 0 bar has been defined as summation of each daily extraterrestrial value divided by the number of days in the month, but that can be easily calculated with the same formula as H 0. You do not have to make 30 calculations and get the average, and fairly accurately you will get it if you choose the midday of the month and the corresponding declination. And there is a small table which gives you this delta m and the recommended days. I will come to the history of it and how. January day is 17 and day of the year also 17, corresponding declination is minus 20.9. For February, the total, these are all the Julian dates, that 17, 47, 75 continuously numbered, and it turns out to be almost around 15th of each month except June, it is 11th, which you also can notice that the change in the declination is more nonlinear between May and June. There is almost 6 degrees change, which is not the case at other places. So, like that July and up to December, these are given. Actually, you do not need, you just save mid month, maybe 15th, and the corresponding if you know these things you are okay, otherwise just the nonlinearity is so small it does not make any difference. Now, you might wonder how these numbers are arrived at. Okay. Is it some mean day has been invented or defined, or it is exactly sort of a back calculation. H 0 I of each day has been calculated and the average has been found out, and they found a n and a delta which gives closest value to that. So, you calculate for the month of January 30 H 0 values, find divide by 31, you will get the average. That turns out to be, if I use n is equal to 15 and delta m is equal to minus 20.9, I will have the same number closest. In between two numbers it will lie, and whichever it is close, it will be the called mean declination and the recommended value. There is another advantage, most of the time for other processing of monthly average processing, you can use this midday concept and the mean declination. This is a little extension done here. Similarly, I can define a for the year average. This could be very useful if you want to make a single calculation for the entire year. So, that what is the solar radiation falling on the roof surface or the corresponding terrestrial value. You can use this, and this is again defined as 1 by 365 plus all the summation, or 1 by 12 of the averages of each month. Okay, and you have a very simple expression given by H 0 y bar is 35.773 cos of latitude plus a times modulus of phi minus 11.28 sin mod phi, where a is for positive latitudes it is slightly lower, for negative latitude slightly higher. In other words, southern hemisphere extraterrestrial radiation is slightly more, because when the angles are favorable, the distance also is nearer, unlike in the northern hemisphere. This actually it looks like a very empirical relation, but then there was a summation done from the expression, from which the 35 or something can be derived some sort of, and these are add-ons to take care of both southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere. So, now what we achieved was, on different time scales I can calculate extraterrestrial value, either the intensity on the horizontal plane or for a short period of time like hour or a day, monthly average day or the yearly average day. With these ballpark values, if we compare with what we are going to receive on the Earth's surface, we shall have some working method for the simulation calculations. ये नहीं है और देखो होना चाहिए मेरे पास. Okay. So, we have G 0, I 0, H 0 and a H 0 bar and a H 0 bar for the year. One can also define I 0 bar, that is, you can call it monthly average hourly extraterrestrial radiation. So, we may define this I 0 bar as so, it is the average of all the 30 days for a particular hour. It is not that days value is divided into the number of hours, but I take what is the extraterrestrial value from 7 to 8 of all the 30 days and then find out what is the average of that. There is a purpose. So, sigma I 0 bar from, let us say, instead of symbols, from sunrise to sunset should also be equal to H 0 bar. because H 0 is the average of all the days and I 0 is the average of each hour. So, that should comprise of the average day. So, sigma I 0 bar sunrise to sunset. So, though we do not know the exact expressions yet, but physically S r can mean sunrise and S s can mean sunset. Okay. Of course, you can go with a yearly average also, but that I think is too much, we do not do this. So, when once we were defining the terrestrial components, correspondingly they will be G, which will comprise of G b plus G d, then a corresponding H, which will be comprising of H b plus H diffuse, and a H bar, H b bar plus H d bar. We will not right now worry about the yearly part, and then this is important, I bar is 1 by n sigma I j I j a particular hour. Okay. I am only particularly repeating this average hourly value concept. It is the average of a particular hour for the entire 30 or 31 days in the month. So, either you can have I, H, etc. measured, I 0, H 0, etc. we can calculate. Okay. Now, when we are trying to go for the design of a system, one obvious simplification we would like to have is, let us say I have got 365 days, 24 hours data split into, if necessary, I b and I d. Okay. Then I may go with the simulation and get the answer, right. Apart from computational expense, if you are having a domestic water heating system which may cost only 5,000 rupees, the simulation cost may become comparable to that cost. So, you may like to work with whether it gives 55 liters or 65 liters, or whether it requires 2 square meters or 2.2 square meters, you may not be very particular. And most of the time in the production, depending upon the standard sheet sizes, one will go for either 1.5 square meters or 2 square meters, whatever are the standard sheets available. So, as we go for standard systems and simpler systems, we would like to make the calculations as simple as possible. Then, as we said, this 244 locations of TM by 2, they are also not all measured information. Some of them are approximate measurements, some of them are derived quantities from other measurements, which will deal with the type of instruments. And in India, we have got only 18 meteorological stations. Most of them are what they call class 2 measurement stations, and that means that they are approximate. So, with that data, a long term average is likely to give you a more reliable information than data which is less reliable measured more number of times. So, apart from that, the basic need is, let us say if you look at a country like India, there are only 18 locations, and most of the time these are all metros: Calcutta, Pune, Delhi, Visakhapatnam, Calcutta and Bhopal, right, and where the land is at premium. So, one may like to have, say, a solar energy system somewhere in Bhadrak or Balasore or smaller places, where you may not have the data. Either you interpolate between two large stations or make an approximation. So, the other thing is, if there is a meteorological station I, IB, ID, all three of them are very rarely measured. Okay. Most of the time it is I that is measured. Because to measurement of IB, you have to essentially go through tracking the sun and integrating the intensity values, because you have to be pointing out the instrument, or I and ID are measured. So, that the difference is IB and you are not really worried about it. Now, what they have done is define what is called a clearness index, or a, again we have to follow the notation, small k T actually is I I0. Basically, if clearness index is given to you, you can find out I, because you know I0, right. But of course, to get clearness index you should know I. So, the purpose of introducing a clearness index is something else other than that indirectly camouflaging as a non-dimensional number with respect to I0. Similarly, for the day I can define it as H0. And correspondingly for monthly average day, you define a capital K T bar as H bar upon H 0 bar, right. Now, we have written those diffuse components of radiation. Diffuse fraction, if I call it, what is the fraction of the diffuse radiation compared to this global value? That means, beam plus diffuse in the denominator and diffuse fraction in the numerator. Similarly, H d by H and H d bar by H bar. Okay. So, again you define similarly, for example, H d bar is number of days in a month. So, now why we are doing all this? So, we can first hypothesize or postulate that this diffuse fraction will be a function of the clearness index mainly, though there may be other secondary variables. And one might wonder, why not I b by I? Instead of I d by I, why not I b by I? When I was first going through that, why that is a beam direct radiation 70% of that, why not? So, but then the measurements of I b are fewer definitely compared to diffuse fraction, and so it happened that this diffuse fraction correlates very well with this clearness index, which is nothing but the radiation available on the earth surface to the extraterrestrial radiation. You can expect, if kT is 1, that means it is a bright hour, right. In fact, actually it is called a clearness index. So, if it is equal to 1, it is very clear. So, diffuse fraction should vanish. That means, if the atmosphere is 100% transparent, there is no diffuse radiation, all I is your I b itself. So, by extension, if capital K T or K T bar are equal to 1, then my H d by H or H d bar by H bar tend to 0. If K T, capital K T small, I will not write 0, okay. Then I can expect this diffuse fraction tends to be unity. Why I did not say 0 is, then I itself is 0, if I is 0, I d is 0. So, I will get into a mathematical difficulty of indeterminate form, right. But if the clearness index is very small, that means it is a very cloudy day, cloudy hour, then all the radiation that I am receiving is diffuse radiation itself, though it may be pretty small, but most of it will be diffuse radiation. Consequently, we can say if the clearness indices are small, my diffuse fractions are close to unity. This is a physical thing that I can expect, and it has got a better relation with respect to the actual measurements of the diffuse fraction correlated with this parameter K T. So, K T I can calculate once I have the measurement of I only, and I can find out what is the diffuse fraction from these relations when once we develop these things. Okay. We also have a slightly little more motivated thing, when once we have got this type of a non-dimensional quantity, there will be some sort of a distribution of a clearness indices over a period of time. So, that also we can further explore to characterize a month or characterize a particular hour. Like sufficient to say, if we have got 30 or 40 students, if the average mark is 70%, chances are there will be 10% of the people above 80, 20% of the people above 70, and for 30% above 60, like that there will be a cumulative distribution, and if the average is high, naturally more number of students should be getting higher marks. So, these qualitative features can be built into these distributions, which will effectively enable us to predict solar radiation depending upon broad values that may be available to us. Essentially, the prediction is what is likely to happen on a typical day in a month or the average day in a month, not that we predict what is it going to be on 10th of tomorrow or 11th of September 2012. No, that is not a that type of prediction. This is an estimate based upon certain parameters. Okay. We shall start with continue terrestrial radiation components and clearness index that we have introduced last time. The solar radiation under extraterrestrial conditions, that is as if atmosphere has 100% transmittance, gets attenuated in the atmosphere, reaches the terrestrial location comprising of direct radiation and diffuse radiation. Though we have not yet elaborated on how to measure these quantities, we also have defined a clearness index, which is the ratio of the terrestrial radiation upon the extraterrestrial radiation. This clearness index also has been defined on different time scales, like a hourly value or like a daily value or a monthly average hourly value. The whole idea is, if the clearness index is known to us, we can estimate the diffuse fraction, thereby making the dependence on measurements lesser, requiring perhaps only the global component from which we can estimate the diffuse component and subsequently the direct or the beam radiation component. So, before that we need to know how to measure solar radiation or estimate in terms of other perhaps more easily and more widely measured meteorological or other variables. Basically, the solar radiation measuring instruments make use of two types of detectors for solar radiation measurement. One type are the thermal detectors, and the other type are the photon detectors. The thermal detectors essentially produce a temperature differential between a heated part and not so heated part, and the temperature difference being proportional to the solar radiation that comes onto the instrument. Whereas, the photon detectors directly convert the solar radiation to electricity. The amount of voltage generated is an indication of the solar radiation incoming. Alternately, the measuring instruments also fall into three categories. In other words, first we classified based on the type of detector that is employed, and now depending upon the purpose or the component it measures, it falls into three categories. Those that measure the global radiation, which is the sum total of direct and diffuse components of radiation, and the third variety measures the direct radiation. We noted already that direct radiation needs to be measured by focusing the instrument towards the sun. Pyranometers, which are the most commonly used measuring instruments for solar radiation, they measure global or diffuse radiation. We shall find out the difference how to use a pyranometer to measure the solar radiation, global or the diffuse component. Generally, the diffuse radiation is measured by the pyranometer with a shading ring, which basically shadows the sensor from the direct radiation, making it record only the diffuse component of radiation. You can understand the difficulty associated in measuring direct radiation is that the instrument has to be directed towards the sun, and such instruments are called pyrheliometers. So, they should be continuously focused. Most of the time pyranometers are used to measure the global component and the diffuse component, and the difference is the direct component, which is checked by measurements for a short while with pyrheliometers. Most commonly used pyranometer is the Epley type of pyranometer, and detector or the working surface consists of two silver rings. We will come to the details along with the pictures. The inner ring is coated with Parsons optical black lacquer and the outer one is coated with white magnesium oxide. This produces a temperature difference between the black coated being at a higher temperature and the brightly polished material being at a lower temperature, and the temperature difference is measured by a thermopile, which is connected to a measuring device like a microvoltmeter or a millivoltmeter. Most of the pyranometers which are in commercial use produce about something like for 100 to 120 watts per meter square of solar radiation intensity, they generate about 1 millivolt. The sensor is placed inside a hermetically sealed spherical lamp bulb filled with dry air. This is to reduce your convective losses. And the same instrument, if I categorically show before I show the actual instrument, this is hermetically sealed double bowl pyranometer with the sensor being at the middle, and there is a shading ring of certain radius which is calculated as per the requirement, will make this shaded by blocking the direct radiation. The shading ring to its base diameter has a certain ratio pre-calculated, which will just shadow the particular sensor. On the contrary, pyrheliometers are of basically three types: the short tube pyrheliometer, the long tube pyrheliometer, and the angstrom pyrheliometer. The short tube and long tube pyrheliometers essentially differ in measuring either the direct radiation coming only from the sun or from the circumsolar disk around the sun, which is equal to the radius or diameter of the sun. Otherwise, the difference is the angle which is included to include the sun or a little extra portion, and that is what distinguishes the short term and the long tube. And angstrom pyrheliometer differs in using a dull null detection system. There are other types of pyranometers, which is Moll-Gosinski pyranometer or a Kip solarimeter. This is a thermopile instrument which has got, of course, two concentric ground and polished glass hemispherical domes of 2 millimeters thickness, and the thermopile surface is rectangular and hence it will be orientation sensitive. Normally, this is called a second category of instrument compared to a Epley pyranometer. Of course, the primary standards are at very standard meteorological stations, where the accuracy recorded is expected to be is higher. And you have got a lot of names of pyranometers, and one can go through lots of websites which will give the description and the companies that produce. One is the Dermhern Schauer pyranometer, also called the Star pyranometer or a Wollersheim pyranometer, and Janishevsky thermoelectric pyranometer, and they essentially vary in the detector or the sensor arrangement. Sensor could be rectangular, sensor could be circular, and the detector could be thermal detector or photon detector, and sometimes the circular disc which is brightly polished, instead of being surrounded by another black one, it is alternately painted black and white or polished, so that the temperature difference between this type of sectors is measured. So, this also basically is the temperature difference between the brightly polished and black painted surface. There is another instrument called the biometallic actinograph, and these are self contained recorders, because essentially they depend upon the displacement of a length of a black coated bimetallic strip exposed to solar radiation, and the other bimetallic strip is either painted white or shielded from solar radiation, which produces a mechanical linkage through which the solar radiation is indicated. And this error is larger because of lot of mass of the mechanical arrangement, plus also due to the mechanical linkage. Now, we come to very commonly used in many meteorological stations, and also has a reliability, though may not be as expensive, may not be as accurate as the pyranometers or pyrheliometers. This is simply a spherical lens arranged in a bowl, and the bottom of which we keep a strip coated with a certain material, and the material gets charred depending upon the intensity of the solar radiation. So, if you look at straight that particular strip, you will find, depending upon the time of the day and the intensity, the charring will be of varying length, and that they are that means it is a bright sunshine. Out of a possible 12 hours or 13 hours of solar radiation, if somebody finds 6 hours to be of having bright sunshine, they can relate it to the total number of hours of sunshine possible on a particular day in the location to the total amount, which is approximate, but there have to be empirical constants usually derived based upon the location. So, these constants will give pretty accurate result for that location or the location with similar climate. And other advantages, this does not require a power source for recording. For example, if you have a pyrheliometer or pyranometer, the solar radiation needs to be continuously recorded. In the olden days, it used to be some sort of a XT recorder, and if one wants to get a value for 1 hour or 1 day, it goes through a painful integration process, quite often mechanically or using a planimeter. So, this recorder has to be operated with an external power source. If there is a power failure, even though the instrument may be working, you will not have an indication of the solar radiation. The later generation pyranometers are coupled to integrating instruments which measure the intensity over a period specified and come out with cumulative radiation values. So, again Campbell Stokes recorder, Jordan recorder, these are some of the popularly used sunshine recorders. Marvin recorder makes use of a thermoelectric switch to actuate a chronograph to trace the sunshine hours.